You got me? Okay.
Go, girl.
All righty. Hi, everybody. My name is Allison. For those of you that do not know me, I welcome you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about mindset and personal development and the importance of that. And ironically, we have a little spreadsheet we fill out if we want to volunteer to lead a call. And I signed up, I guess, about a month ago to do this call. And little did I know that my mindset would be taking a little bit of a shake and roll. I live right outside of New Orleans, and we have two Hurricane One category storms coming our way. So it's been a little. We're trying to do hurricane prep. We're used to it. I'm born and raised here, so I know how it goes, but it's still very unnerving. So if y'all could just keep everyone in our area in your prayers. Also, my daughter went back to school 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. And Friday, after I get her home, the principal calls and says that she needs to stay home for 2 weeks because her math tutor tested positive for COVID. So we kind of got, some things going on around here. And I guess I consider myself a type A, like high anxiety stress person in general that I have to work on a daily basis to get that under control. So that just those two things can kind of get me ramped up. So we have my daughter quarantined in her bedroom for the most part, and when we do evacuate for a hurricane, we usually go to my parents' house because they have a generator. But now I don't really want to do that because they're in their 70s and I don't want to take a child who could possibly have COVID to my parents. So they have health conditions. So it's just a big mess, right? So when I was researching about what I was going to talk about tonight, I came across what I thought would be perfect for all of us to apply at some point of our lives. And it's going to be a repeat, a little bit of for some of you, but it's always something that can be reiterated and we can always hear again. I think I needed to hear it again. And it was an article I found by a PhD, a psychiatrist, on behavioral strategies for coping with stress. And it's kind of like a two-part thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then at the end of the call, I'm going to talk to you about what personal development serves me most and why. And give you a couple of book choices that I love based on that, and then I'll give people the opportunity, and please play along if you could type in your chat at the end of the call what your favorite podcast or book is serving you. Beachbody tells us how important it is, and it's a key ingredient of what we do, is personal development. And sometimes people want to say, I don't need that, right? I've got it under control. But trust me when I tell you that it is a very necessary ingredient. It all ties together like a big package. So this article has confirmed that. Sometimes we wonder, or you may have wondered, I'm going to try Beachbody, and I'm going to try this, but it's so hard for me to change my behavior. I'm going to probably be back to square one. I'm going to try it, but, and sometimes we find, instead of our best intentions, we find ourselves turning back to our old behavior. And I've done it, we do it. So what this article was stating is that, though, most of the time the reason why we turn back to our old behavior is because of stress, some form of stress. We will always have stress in our lives. We will always have some form of it. But she talks about if you find yourself wanting to change, but you're constantly returning to an old pattern that includes using substances like wine at night, or if you're a smoker or whatever that is, it can make your stress is cause of that, and it can make it an already difficult process even harder to change. So when we're in a high state of stress, we look to those things to give us comfort. Food, So when stress is high, giving up something that feels good is going to be harder than it may usually be. If your stress is chronic, then the thought of making any changes to your behaviors can seem monumental in the moment. So getting the stress under control is key. And so I'm going to teach you a couple of coping skills that this article talked about. There's 3 signs of stress. There's physical, there's behavioral, and then there's your mental and emotional signs of stress. Here are some good tips on how to cope with physical symptoms of stress. When your physical symptoms of stress may include feeling sluggish and tired, achy, stiff neck and back, headaches. And so some good things to do with those physical signs is, number 1, to practice good sleep hygiene. And yes, there is such a thing as good sleep hygiene. If you don't have a good system set up for that, you always feel like you're kind of in a state of jet lag all day, all day long. So it's important to have a good system of going to bed at a certain time at night and waking up at a certain time of day, weekend or not, as best as you can to stick to that for your body. I do have a bad habit sometimes, I'll admit, of the weekends we sleep in a little bit because we wake up so early during the school week. So, but it throws you off. It, inevitably will throw you off. Number 2, give yourself regular breaks. So this I find really helps me. If I find myself really keyed up and anxious, if I just walk away for 5 minutes and go in my bedroom and just have quiet where I can just decompress a minute, it does help you. It gives your mind a moment to rest and reorganize. So many people, she mentions that contrary to many people's first instincts when they're stressed, is that taking breaks will actually make you more efficient, more energetic, and better able to tackle the challenges in front of you. So most people think that if I take a break, I'm going to get sidetracked, I'm not going to be able to keep going. But if you're stressed out, it does allow you to decompress. Number 3, regularly practice self-soothing techniques. Listening to music, taking a bath, watching a movie, getting a massage, relaxation, yoga. They're all in the long list of possible ways to self-soothe. Number 4 is exercise regularly. Even a 20-minute brisk walk outside. I crave exercise now. I used to hate to exercise, but like today when my husband and I are trying to do MBF together and I'm 2 days ahead of him, and he was getting the yard cut and picking up all the stuff off of the patio, and I wanted to do my workout and I knew he wasn't ready to do it, but I felt like I'm going to feel so much better if I just press play. I know I will, because I'm going to sweat it out. And he's like, go ahead and do it. I get it. Just go ahead. You'll be 3 days behind. I'll be 3 days behind. So, but it does help with stress. Maintaining a healthy diet. I don't really have to discuss this in length because I think we all know that. Eating well is going to serve you better. So for me, it's an emotional tie-in. A lot of times I will want the ice cream and, the chicken fingers from Raising Cane's down here. They make excellent chicken fingers and French fries. And I'll do it on occasion. Obviously I'm human, but inevitably it doesn't serve my stress. In fact, it makes me feel worse sometimes because then I start the negative self-talk. So, and then limit your consumption of alcohol and other mood-altering substances, including sleep aids. Then you have your behavioral signs of stress, how you're acting, your behaviors. These can include increased clutter in your personal or workspace, forgetting what you're doing or having trouble organizing yourself, and moving around very quickly or very slowly. Some coping skills to help with that. Routine, routine, routine. if you can stick to a routine, guys, that's going to really help with eliminating stress. A good tip is to take 10 minutes every morning to plan out your day. Set aside time for things that are causing you stress, work, household responsibilities, and the things that will help you manage it. Exercise, contact with friends, pleasurable activities. Number 2, write things down. Write things down. Set aside 10 minutes about an hour before you go to bed to write down all the things. Kelly has talked about this. She calls it brain dump, but write it all down and then say to yourself, don't give it more than 10 minutes, because then you'll start obsessing over it and your mind will start going, ruminating through all the things you have to do. Just write down for 10 minutes. And this is teaching your brain that you have all the worries recorded down and you'll get to them the next day. Think of it like packing all your worries in a suitcase and then putting it away, not to be opened until tomorrow. Then spend the hour before you go to bed engaged in some routine, soothing activities like reading a book or taking a bath. Then finally, you have your mental and emotional signs of stress. Some ways that you can combat this and some coping skills for this. Be mindful of your attitude and approach to your life. Be mindful of your attitude and your approach to your life. Changing your thoughts from, I have to work on this project and I have to get it done perfectly, to I'll do the best I can in the time I have. Feeling that you have to manage everything without asking for help. With this attitude in life, it can make you, while this attitude in life can make you a very independent person, it can also cause you to be more burdened and less efficient than you need to be. Realizing that everyone needs help sometimes can actually reduce stress. So just reach out and ask somebody if you need help. Don't try to take it all on yourself. And most of the time people are willing to help and they want to help. I know my husband and I have gone round and round with that. He sees me trying to put out 50 fires and he's like, why don't you just ask me for help? Tell me what you need. And I don't want to feel like I'm burdening him by asking him to do another thing. And I'm sure you all get that, but he knows that I'm going to be a better wife and mom and person if I just get something else off my plate. So it's easier for him to just help and do it. So that's pretty much what I have for you as far as going over some coping skills on stress. And it was good for me to rehash them, and I wanted to offer it to you guys as well. And then the part 2 of this call really for me was, I've read several personal development and listened to podcasts recently over the years, over the last year really, where I really dug into it and realized that I may not be where you are. We may not be on the same page with what we need. We all have to grow in a certain virtue. There's always a point where you need to be honest with yourself. Where do I need to grow? What virtue do I need to get better in? Is it patience? Is it, how to relax, how to let go, anger, resentment, jealousy, whatever virtue you feel like you need work in, that's where you want to grab a book or a podcast to help you grow. What you focus on is going to grow. So if you're going to focus on getting better in a certain aspect of your life, you need to draw towards that. One of the things that drew me to Beachbody was I've always had a disordered view of body image, food, and just not obsessing really about food and what food to eat and what food not to eat and how do I look in things and what weight I want to be to feel my best, and you can really obsess over it. And when I reached out to my coach at the very beginning, when I started working with Kelly, she said, I really feel like you need to read Made to Crave. And that's one that I always suggest, by Lisa Terkeurst. Um, it's about craving, craving the right things in your life, putting God in there, and it's a great devotional. We all want to become the best versions of ourselves, ladies. So do this part. It's an important part. Another thing I listened to today was a Rob Dial. He does podcast, and he said something that made a lot of sense to me. You can create your own reality based on the channel you tune into. He talked about like changing the channel on your TV. So something as simple as, you want to watch a basketball game and you've got it on an NFL channel, you're not going to find a basketball game there. So you're tuned into the wrong channel. So you need to find the right channel for you. He talked about the reticular activating system in our brain, which is very interesting. It's funny, just what I'm saying about what you focus on grows. He gave the example of he bought a truck, and I know Sarah and Kelly, we've listened to a podcast by I think Brad Bizjack before. He talks about the colors, but he gave a similar example. He bought a truck, and all of a sudden he sees all the trucks on the road. He said, I don't ever remember seeing that many trucks before. But if you watch the news, and you're gonna probably have a negative skewed mindset if you watch the news all day long. Yet if you go into nature, you'll see that the world is still beautiful. Nothing's really changed in the world. It's still beautiful. So that's what your focus would be on if you go into nature, and it's positive. If you have a victim mentality, you're going to think everything's happening to you. What reality do you want to live in? What reality do you want to live in? Set your mind based on what you want and how you want to feel. Spend time with people who are the way that you want to be, or that way that you admire and look up to. Your challenge groups, your support and love there. Everybody having the same pretty much goals of wanting to be healthy and stay fit. So what I would like for you to do is, because some people are still struggling to find or maybe struggling to find or haven't leaned into the concept of personal development yet. So maybe if you could type in the chat and I can read some, like, what's your favorite? What's your, I haven't looked at anything in the chat. So if there's a question, I'll be happy to try to answer it. But, what's something that has helped you? And it might just be something that can help another person. Like I said, Made to Crave was a really good one for me. Another really good one that I'm enjoying right now, I'm halfway through it, but Elizabeth Aldridge mentioned it. And it's great for somebody. It is written by a Catholic author, but you don't have to be Catholic to get the book. But it's called The Catholic Table. And it's a short little book, and I meant to bring it with me to my computer, but I have a picture. I'll put it in the comments. But it teaches you about the beauty of food and faith, and ties it in together, and how she was a very disordered eating type of person, and how her mindset has shifted on the beauty of food and how great it really is, and a gift to us, not something to be feared and micromanaged and worried upon. And it's been great so far. And she's got recipes in there, and just how to embrace life and embrace the journey, and, not look at it as a fear of what to eat or what not to eat, or that type of mindset, which is what I struggle with. So it was a good suggestion for me to have. It's called, Jennifer, The Catholic Table. It's a small book. Elizabeth Aldridge had mentioned it to us, I think maybe in the team page, but Finding Joy Where Food and Faith Meet by Emily Chapman. It's a small book. It's got a beautiful cover. It's good. I'm about halfway through. She's a Catholic writer based in Steubenville, Ohio. And she has other books as well. So
can I say something, Allison?
please.
And when we start out with fitness and nutrition and all that stuff, oftentimes personal development isn't talked about in our groups, or it isn't talked about as like part of the journey. Sometimes we talk about prayer in our groups, and sometimes we talk about personal development, but oftentimes this is one of those links that's left out that's so vital to to that transformation process of how to change our minds and our hearts, to change our bodies so that we can live and be the best version of ourselves. So this is really good because it's so important for us to have this piece, and oftentimes it's completely overlooked. And even when it isn't overlooked, a lot of times people don't want to do it because, like for me, my mom was always reading personal development books and stuff, and it always seemed very hokey. And it's taken me a while to just see it as a way to lean in and learn and grow, as opposed to just, I don't know, saying affirmations to myself in the mirror kind of thing. So there are ways to do this stuff that don't seem so, I don't know, so hokey to me. And just learning and leaning in and learning about different ways to think about stuff and how we think and how we grow and how we do habits and all of those parts of our lives that we just kind of automatically do. Personal development kind of lifts the curtain and gives us a chance to see, oh, that's why I do what I do, and I need to change that. And that's why it's so vital for us to be able to do these things, because we go on autopilot for so much of our life that we don't even realize we're doing these things because of something 20 years ago or something 10 years ago or some other time. So personal development gives us that chance to kind of examine our lives in a more thoughtful way. And so I guess I appreciate what you're saying, and I think that it's so important. Sorry.
So too. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I mean, I feel like what you're saying, Angie, you know, some of us might even, like you're saying, we don't even realize why we have the behaviors we do. Why do we have to struggle with food that we have? Why? But personal development will give you the answer if you dive into it a lot of times. Kill the Spider, someone mentioned, that's a very good book. That was recommended on our retreat. That specifically talks about, you know, you picture a spider web, but you got to get to that spider, the root of why you have why you are the way you are, maybe, and tools on how to help you kill that spider and get to that root. You know, things happen to us in our life. I've used this example once before. I'll never forget when I was always a chunky kid. And when I was about 9 or 10 years old, we were the first family on our street to have a swimming pool, an in-ground swimming pool, and it was a big deal. And I had a bunch of neighborhood friends, and I was the chunkiest one, and they would always pick on me. When I was about 10 years old, I remember we invited them all to come swim at my mom and dad's house. And my mom and dad went all out. They made hot dogs and hamburgers, and all the neighborhood kids came. And this one little girl just teased the hell out of me in my bathing suit and told me how I was the fattest one and I'd probably make the biggest cannonball in the pool, and just went on and on. And I got out of my own swimming pool and I went and hid behind the air conditioning unit and cried my eyes out. And I remember my mom coming and finding out what was wrong and made all the kids leave and go home. But to me, and I don't want to blame anything, but to me, that's what really started my body image issues. I still remember it. I still remember how it felt. You know, I still second guess how I look in things because of that. And I mean, I'm much better and I'm progressing, and personal development definitely helps me. But I know that that's a very big piece of why I have the body image issues I've had. But we can work on it, and personal development can give us those tools that we need to overcome that. in 10 minutes, guys, 10 or 15 minutes a day. I mean, we can grab that. You can take your book in the bathroom in the morning, or listen to your podcast in your car on your way to work, or Audible, your book. Because it really is important. And a lot of times we want to shy away from what maybe causes those demons in our lives, but we can chase every diet, and you can chase for the rest of your life if you don't get to the root of why. And there's freedom in that. There's freedom in that. I'm going to name a couple of other books for people that may watch the recording, and then I'm going to let everyone go unless you have some questions. But I know Kill the Spider was on here. That's a great one. Anything by Brene Brown. I still haven't read any of her stuff, but I've heard she's great. I listened to her podcast. I listened to her TED Talk on the power of vulnerability, and that was really good. You know, I wasn't going to mention that tonight, but it came up when Jennifer put Brene Brown. Kelly is not able to be with us tonight because her friend passed away of cancer, Elise Angelette. And Elise Angelette, I met her and her husband through a married couples retreat that my husband and I went on outside of New Orleans. And I started following Elise's blog. And at some point in Elise's blog, because she was vulnerable, she mentioned her friend from New Orleans, Kelly Brown. That connected me to Kelly Brown on Facebook, which connected me to Kelly Brown as my Beachbody coach, which connected me to these awesome communities and life-changing experiences I've had over the last several years. And so there is so much power in being vulnerable, and even with yourself. If you're not ready to be vulnerable with other people, open up your own self to better develop your mindset and grow. 4 Enemies of the Heart, that Sarah Hesser mentioned earlier tonight. I'm interested in that one too. You're a Badass, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. Lots of Brene Brown stuff. Oh, the lady that I was talking about on the Catholic Table book, she also had on the back of her book, the author Kate Wicker, Weightless, Megan. So she recommended her on the back of that book, Weightless by Kate Wicker. So there's so many out there, you guys. Reach out to your coach, and if you're struggling with finding something where you would like to grow, what area you would like to develop a little bit more in, we'd be happy to help you. And if we don't have the answer, we'll find you an answer. We'll lean in and help one another. That's the point of these groups, to help everyone. So Eat the Frog, Energy Bus was really good. Energy Bus, if you have trouble with like negative thinking, negative self-talk, Energy Bus is really good. Yes, and it's short. I listened to it on Audible. He, the author of the book, actually read the book on Audible. It was good.
The thing I liked about Energy Bus, what Allison said was 100% true, but the part that struck me is how many times we blame our circumstances on the other people who are around us and say, well, I can't be positive because these people are negative, and I can't not be around these people because I live with them, work with them, whatever. And that book is 100% focused on what you can control and includes the impact that has on the people around you. That was one thing I really liked about it, because that's a trap that I fall into. I'm like, well, I'm amazing. It's all these other people around me who are life sucking. And Energy Bus really tackles that one.
For sure.
That's my favorite. I'm amazing and everybody else isn't. No, but I think that this was so good, Allison, and you did such a good job. And I know that it's hard because we don't know where people are coming from, and we don't know what they need and what PD people need. And I think it's so hard to kind of throw this out there, but I think that the idea of it laying a foundation for your fitness and nutrition and mindset and all that stuff, being able to do some PD and do that work and figure out what your relationship with food is and how you can take responsibility for your actions and how you can work in your group and make it even better. I think that's so important. And I really appreciate that you did this call tonight, because it's so vital to making lasting change, because it's easy to make a change for a month or for a week or for 2 weeks, but to make it stick, to have it really change us and really change our family and really change the people around us, we have to change first. And we can't wait for other people to do that. We can't wait for our husbands to change or somebody else. We have to take that on ourselves. And so figuring out what we need and kind of treating it like a class in our lives is really important, so that we can then move forward, and hopefully they'll come with us as we move forward. So this was really good. I appreciate it, Allison.
Thank you very much. This is hard for me. I'm like sweating. I'm like dripping in sweat from like head to toe right now. So, and the air conditioner is on 65. So I told my husband, I said, we are sucking every ounce of air condition that there is, because when the lights go out, God help us, because it is 100 degrees outside. And we don't have a generator. So, but I want to thank you all for being here, and I'm going to close this in prayer. And I hope you all have a good week. So, God, thank you so much for these women. Thank you for letting them be vulnerable enough to show up and courageous enough to show up tonight. And for those that are listening to the recording later this week, teach them that they are worthy. Teach them that they are loved by you. Show them that they're loved by you. Help us to see your presence every day. All good things come from you. Help us to lean in together in our challenge groups to serve one another, to be the light. Thank you for all the gifts that you've bestowed upon our families, every small miracle, every small and big gift you've bestowed us with. Please protect all of those in the path of our hurricanes coming this way. We ask that you protect us from all loss of life and property. And we just want to thank you, Lord, for each other and for this community. Thank you for blessing us with each other. Hope we all have a good week. May we all be a light and a gift to one another and show someone this week that they matter. Amen. Y'all have a good night. Thank you so much.